Hello and welcome to Prep Playbook 2015 Week 2 Preview. I'm Jim Rapier. Joining me today is Prep sports writer Jim Derry, who will provide some analysis as we head into the second week of the Prep football season. Well, Jim, after a great first week, you about ready to get started?
It'll be hard to duplicate week 1.
Well, let's give it a shot anyway.
Sounds good.
All right, Jim, we're going to go rapid fire and get your thoughts on this week's matchups. First up is Riverside and Parkview Baptist.
Oh, looking forward to this matchup. Riverside, a tough 1-point loss to Everett last week against a tough 5A opponent. This week, it doesn't get any easier. They're playing the #1 team in Class 3A. At Parkview Baptist, it's going to be an interesting matchup. Hard to imagine Riverside has a chance to go 0-2, but they got a tough one here.
And there's a look at Herb McGee there at playing quarterback for Riverside in the absence of Jordan Loving, who's nursing an injury. All right, Jim, let's move to Everett versus East St. John, where it appears Karr Baham will play despite bruising a knee last week.
Big deal for Everett to have him back, especially against East St. John. We saw the Wildcats play last week against Shaw. You know, they're struggling a little bit without their starting quarterback there. They're waiting for Marquise Darrensburg to come back off a suspension. Everett wants to keep the ball rolling, and you know, they're going to end up one of the top teams in 5A.
And that's a look at Juwan Leonard, who played quarterback some last week in the absence, of course, with the injury to Karr Baham. Jim, what about a couple North Shore, South Shore matchups in St. Paul's Jesuit and McDonough 35 Slidell?
Well, we'll be at Ted Gorman for St. Paul's Jesuit. Really looking forward to that game. St. Paul's, I really thought going into the season, you know, I have an advantage of being the North Shore beat writer, so I've seen St. Paul's throughout the spring and into the summer, and I think they're, you know, I really think that this is a team that's on the rise and it's going to take some people by surprise. They could very well be in the hunt for the Division I state championship game later on this season, and they're going against the defending 1 state champs who are coming off a loss to Easton. So it's going to be a real interesting game at Gorman. I'm really looking forward to seeing that. Then you talk about McDonough 35 and Slidell. You know, 35 making the move in 4A up to about, I think they're number 5 in the state, and Slidell, even though they trailed Destrehan in the Class 5A state championship.
A great rally.
Made a nice rally to come back, and look, Coach Favre loves his young team, and the fact they didn't win the game, they got to within 2 points, I believe, or 4 points, and just the fact that they were able to make a run on Destrehan, I think gives them some confidence going into the rest of the season, and they have just a brutal non-district schedule, and I think that you know, if they can play well against McDonough 35, could give them a charge maybe going into district.
And don't underestimate a Larry Favre coach team.
No doubt.
All right, let's shift our focus to some games featuring out-of-area opponents in Mandeville Barbe, Easton Evangel, and Shaw Turlings Catholic.
First with Mandeville Barbe, this is a rematch of the second round game last year that Mandeville went over to Barbe and won by 3 points. I think they kicked a late field goal to win the game. Mandeville, we saw them against Holy Cross this past weekend. I think they have a lot on the table. I don't think they know what they are yet. Mandeville's the kind of team that every year it's somebody new and somebody different that kind of takes charge. That defense, though, is really, really good. They struggled in the first half against Holy Cross, pitched a shutout in the second half, and you know, I like their chances at Barbe to go over there. And if they could, you know, go over to Lake Charles and start out the season 2-0 would be a big deal.
Easton Evangel?
Easton Evangel. You know, Easton making the big trip up to Shreveport. Wow, I don't think they could have played any better than they played last week against Jesuit. Coach Tony Hall obviously happy given the Eagles that first win against, even though they don't play Jesuit that much, they're only a few blocks away from one another. It was a big-time exciting win for the alumni of Warren Easton. And they obviously want to keep the ball rolling against an Evangel team that's sort of in transition.
And Matt Keller, Trey Regis for Shaw. Turlings Catholic, they've got a pretty good team as well. You know,
and another team that's flying under the radar are the Shaw Eagles. I was surprised that they really handled East St. John the way that they did this past week. You know, they're playing a team in Turlings Catholic that's got a high-flying offensive attack and a quarterback that's about 6'6", so it should be an interesting matchup. And the Eagles' defensive backs better be ready.
All right, and lastly, in this rapid-fire round preview, Jim, Landry Walker versus Karr.
Wow, you know, two big rivals that, you know, used to be in the same district. They're playing in non-district play, but they're both reeling. They're both really ticked off going into this week. They both got handled pretty well. Landry Walker lost, you know, fairly bad to John Curtis, and Karr went up to the North Shore and got handled by St. Paul. So somebody's coming out 0-2, and I guarantee you there's going to be a fight until the end of this one's over to find out, you know, to avoid 0-2 at all costs.
This game will not be lacking in energy level. All right, Jim.
No question about that.
There's a lot to look forward to this week, and as usual, thanks for giving us some input.
Glad to be here, partner.
All right. And don't forget, you can follow all of Jim's work as well as all of our writers at highschoolsports.NOLA.com. Well, that's about it for this edition of Prep Playbook, football preview week 2 for the 2015 season. For Jim Derry, I'm Jim Rapier. Thanks for clicking on us. We'll see you again soon.